How you doing, everybody? Today we are taking a quick look at Frankenstein, written and directed by Guillermo del Toro and starring Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi. Normally I start these things off with a plot summary, but do I really have to give you a plot summary for Frankenstein? It's about a dude who tries to play God and it all goes horribly wrong because of course it does. It's a story that has been adapted to film several times. The classic Universal black and white film is probably the most well known. Not the most true to Mary Shelley's novel, mind you. Her version of the creature was very intelligent, much more so than Boris Karloff's Fire Bad. I like the old school Frankenstein movie, but a faithful adaptation it was not. Del Toro's version, which he has been trying to make for a long time, is a bit more faithful to Shelley's novel. And it's basically told in two parts. The first part is Victor Frankenstein's story, and the second part is the creature story. Del Toro did make a few changes from the novel to kind of put his own spin on the story, some of which are a little puzzling. Instead of being Victor's fiancée, he decided to make the Elizabeth character the fiancée of Victor's brother William. I'm not sure what that accomplished, except maybe really driving the point home that Victor is an asshole who will flirt with his brother's girl, but I don't know that we needed that necessarily. And the ending is a little different as well. It's still pretty dark, but perhaps a bit more hopeful. But it still more or less follows the same story. You have Victor conducting weird experiments to try to unlock the secret to immortality, and succeeding, and almost immediately regretting it. Oh shit, I've created a creature that can't be killed. That might be a problem later. Probably should have thought of that if I wasn't so busy drowning in my own hubris. And like the original story, the creature is intelligent, although at first it's basically a child. At first, the only word it knows how to say is Victor, and it just keeps repeating that over and over, just saying the same name again and again like a giant undead Pokemon. But then he meets a blind man, played by David Bradley, and that begins his education as well as a beautiful friendship. And that entire sequence with Bradley and Elordi is so good. It is heartwarming as hell, right up until the point when it isn't. Pretty much everything Jacob Elordi does in this movie is fantastic. That man was born to play the creature. I enjoyed those early scenes right after the creature is brought to life where he sees everything with this childlike wonder, but then he ultimately comes to hate his own life because he can't die and he has to go on living in a world that hates and fears him. I can't imagine anyone playing this part better than Elordi, and if he doesn't get an Oscar nomination, fuck the Academy. The rest of the cast is pretty good as well. I really liked Oscar Isaac as Victor Frankenstein. He is legitimately quite brilliant, but he lets his own brilliance go to his head and just becomes insufferable. Not unlike your average Silicon Valley CEO. I thought Mia Goth did a very good job as Elizabeth, one of the few characters in the movie that does not immediately shun the creature. She is beautiful inside and out, which means something bad is probably going to happen to her because that's how these stories go. We also have Christoph Waltz as Henrik Harlander, and he is always fun to watch. He can make a good movie great, and even in a bad movie, he'll give it far more than it deserves. And I liked what his character added to the story. He basically becomes Victor's benefactor for his various experiments, and he may or may not have an ulterior motive for doing so. And visually, this film is a masterpiece. A friend of mine pointed out a shot in the trailer that is basically this angelic being, not necessarily from up there, that Victor sees in a dream, and that is what sold him on the movie. And pretty much every shot in the movie is like that. Every shot is gorgeous, every set is impeccably designed. It kind of reminded me of Del Toro's previous film, Crimson Peak. He does the Gothic style very well. I happened to watch this movie on Netflix, and I almost immediately realized my mistake. I should have seen this on the big screen. I really just have a few minor complaints about this one. Like I said, there were a few changes Del Toro made to the story that weren't necessarily for the better, and a couple lines of dialogue that were questionable. There's a point close to the end of the movie where Victor's brother William says, "You're the monster, Victor." And I'm thinking, yeah, I know. That is, in fact, the impression I got from the previous 2 hours of the movie. You really didn't have to spell that out. But overall, excellent movie, a very good adaptation of the Frankenstein story, well worth seeing on the big screen if you can, but if you can only see it on Netflix, that's fine too. And that's all I have to say about Frankenstein. Till next time, take care.